sync the audio.
What do you mean sync?
That's how they do it. That's how they do it in showbiz.
Yeah, I guess.
We need to get a beer sponsor for this show.
We should get a Guinness to sponsor it.
We should get Lagunitas to sponsor it.
Well, before this becomes about beer, this is our second episode of Stuff and Thangs.
Yes. Working title.
Working title, but right now it is a pretty good title, I think. Only 3 other people have it, according to you, right?
Yeah, something like that. It was definitely a lot less than 2 guys, 1 mic.
Okay, unfortunately, as I like that title.
Yeah.
But today we're going to be talking about video games, mostly. And tying it back to just, we're both gamers. You stream. I do YouTube videos, or I'm going to start doing YouTube videos. So, and we've been playing since we were little.
Mm-hmm.
You were since we were little, right? But we both grew up with different consoles.
I think that our paths
we
went on we had a fork in the road, and I went one way and you went the other way.
Yeah.
And so we'll discuss that a little bit during this episode.
Okay. So how should we begin this enlightened debate?
Well,
/ conversation.
I think we should talk about how how we first started playing video games, and what some of our first video games were, and take it from there.
You start first.
Okay. Well, thinking back to my earliest memories playing video games, I had a Game Boy Color, and one of the first games I played on that was the TMNT game. So I don't know, have you played Game Boy Color?
I have, yeah.
These are probably games that no one fucking knows, but just a lot of random stuff. Obviously, like some of the Mario games, like Super Mario 3. Was that a thing?
What was your first video game?
Yeah, well, out of the ones I remember, it's those 2.
Super Mario Bros. 3.
I remember
on the SNES.
No, but it was on the Game Boy Color, so it was a port. I think it was a port of the game. I played a lot of ports to Game Boy Color.
And how old were you when you first played video games?
Yeah, I was probably like 5. Also, one of the first games I remember playing was Pokemon Red and Blue, and to the point where I remember like barely, I could barely read, so I was really struggling to play the game, and I got stuck at the part when you meet the Snorlax in the road. And you have to go find like a magic flute to wake up the Snorlax, but I couldn't figure it out, so I just gave up.
You talking about Pokemon?
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So you've never played Pokemon?
I have not.
That's actually crazy.
No, I have
That's pretty crazy.
I've never touched a Pokemon game, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, Smash Brothers is the closest I've ever gotten to a Pokemon game.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just... my first game were Nintendo games, but they were strictly Mario.
Interesting. I'm the complete opposite, which is that pretty much just played Pokemon for Nintendo, and then none of the Mario games, really. A little bit. I dabbled here or there, but for the most part, no.
What's the last Mario game that you played?
The last Mario game that I played? Oh, man. I mean...
It better not be before the Wii.
No, I don't even think I played that one. I think it was the DS one.
Super Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I played Donkey Kong Country 2 though. On the Wii U.
Donkey Kong games are fire.
Those are really good.
Those are really good.
And I will admit
underrated.
that Mario games are good. They're just too childish for me. Where
that's insulting.
Well,
what are you talking about?
Well, we have my philosophy and my interest mainly in video games today lies in the narrative. So for me, like the number one thing is that I want.
Okay. I guess Mario games don't have narrative.
Yeah, that's what I mean by childish. I mean, they're cool. They have really cool mechanics, like interesting puzzles, and game design is really great. But for me, it's like not engaging enough because there's no story.
It's funny if you want a Mario game with story, I think probably the best Mario game with the best story is the first Mario Galaxy.
Really? Okay.
I don't know if you've ever played it.
No.
The first Super Mario Galaxy, you have a Switch.
Yeah.
So you have the... Did you get the The re-release that they released, where they released 64, Galaxy, and Sunshine.
No, but definitely something I'd be interested in.
You should find it.
Yeah.
That game, now, it is still a Mario game, but it does have an interesting story with themes of like life and the cycle of life and death and all that.
Oh wow, that's pretty
it's
intense.
Not that deep, but it is in there enough for like when you grow up, you're like, oh shit, this isn't a kid's game. Not to go off on too much of a tangent, but Super Mario Galaxy is the only Mario game that's ever gotten a sequel, not counting like Mario Kart and all that other nonsense. Like the only platform Mario game that's gotten a proper sequel is Mario Galaxy, because I forget the guy's name.
Mario.
No, not Mario. The guy that's behind Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto or something like that. He didn't want the story in the first Mario Galaxy, but they snuck it in there. And it ended up being a success. But when they made the sequel is pretty much a reboot. It's the same story, but without the story. So the second Mario Galaxy doesn't acknowledge the events of the first game because it's a new story, but there's no story. So it's like the typical game that you'd expect. It has no story. Mm-hmm. It's a Mario game.
Yeah.
But the first one has a story hidden in there that's actually, I don't know, it took me off guard when I first watched it.
Fucking Mario gets cancer or something?
No, Mario doesn't get cancer, but it's a cool little story.
Okay.
And even to this day, I think that's probably my favorite Mario game, the first Mario Galaxy, out of all. And I've played all of them.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of them on YouTube, like other people playing them, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of them. Like
those are not the games that you watch on YouTube.
Those are the games I watch on YouTube. Yeah.
Usually, people watch games on YouTube that have stories.
Well,
they have like the Last of Us movie games where you watch the YouTube video and it's like
no, because for me it's like I want to play those games. I don't want to watch someone else play.
I mean, I know, but there's people that
are poor.
Sure. Or stubborn.
Yeah. But yeah, I watched a lot of like Super Mario Sunshine, so pretty familiar with that game, and Super Mario Galaxy a little bit.
So you started with Pokemon. That was that's your entry into gaming.
Entry into gaming, Game Boy Color, Pokemon, the Ninja Turtles game, a bunch of like random other games.
I played the Ninja Turtles game.
Yeah.
I do know that.
A lot of other random games that are so long ago that I don't remember. But it was that, and then the next step for me was when my cousin gave me his PS1. It was the PS2 had just come out, so I didn't need it anymore. Those games were backwards compatible, if you can imagine.
I do, because the Xbox One, as you can imagine, is backwards compatible.
Yes, but these are new things that weren't always the case. So. Which we will get into later. But yeah, and so with the PS1, I played the original Crash Bandicoot, and that's when
Those
I
are
started
pretty
dabbling.
games.
Yeah, really, really good.
The first one's
also really hard.
They weren't that hard. Mario games are harder.
Well, when you're like 6 years old, it's hard.
I guess.
And I'll stop there. Let's hear what you have to say.
So you stopped the PS1 era.
Well, I'll stop. For technically it was PS2 era, but for me it was PS1 era because my cousin got the PS2 and he gave me his PS1.
Okay. All right.
So that was my first, 5 years of gaming, I'd say.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll stop right before I get to the Xbox, because the PS2 is when the Xbox versus PlayStation shit started.
Okay.
I think my first game that I played, I do remember, was Dr. Mario on the SNES. I think that was the console. I think I was 4 years old when I played it. And that's all I played. Just that fucking... Have you ever played Dr. Mario?
No.
It's Tetris. The same thing.
Oh, it's just Tetris. Okay.
It's Tetris, but instead of the cubes, it's
I think Tetris was one of the games I had also.
It's like capsules, like pills.
Yeah.
So Nintendo did introduce me to gaming. I guess, and most people did. I think most... And to pills, yeah. Still to this day. But it was Super Mario. It was Dr. Mario, and then I transitioned into the Super Mario games and all that shit. It was the SNES to the N64.
Why those consoles? Because we're both 26, I believe, and so when we were 4 or 5, those consoles were considered old already.
Were they?
Yeah. I guess, well, for us, it was like the PS1 was already out, and I think maybe the Game Boy Advance was about to come out.
When the 64 was out, there was no PlayStation.
Well, is the N64 the what is that the predecessor to?
There was no PlayStation when the N64 was out. There's no way.
Maybe
there was.
When we were
born, I'm sounding like an idiot right now.
No, when we were born in 1997, the PS1 was already out.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah, I am an idiot. I don't know. I guess because they were kid friendly. I have to ask my dad. He's the one that introduced me to it.
Well, was it like you had an older relative that had those consoles, or like what was the reason that you even had those consoles?
My dad had them. Okay. I got it. My dad had it for Christmas, I think, maybe my birthday. I don't remember the way that I got them, but I do have like a core memory of me playing Dr. Mario as a 4-year-old in Mexico, like just on like a shitty TV and just playing it all day. I would literally shit my pants and not go to the bathroom because I was playing the game.
True gamer, man.
I got famous for in my family for like not using the bathroom so that I can play. And it started with Dr. Mario. But I went the typical Nintendo route. That's like where I went. And I stayed with Nintendo. I mean, I went from the SNES to 64, and then I went from 64 to the GameCube. And the GameCube is like where I really went hardcore. Mario Kart, Double Dash, Sunshine, like no Pokemon, just pure Mario stuff. The original Smash Brothers Melee, that's the first Smash Brothers that I played. And then after that game wore out, I remember getting the Wii. I was lucky enough to get a Wii on the Christmas that it came out. And then I think the Wii was my last. The Wii was my last like console before I transitioned to Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
So I never touched PS1 or PS2. Like I was stuck with Nintendo throughout all the 2000s. And yeah, I mean, I had no connection to anything other than Nintendo before. Honestly, I'll touch on it later, but I didn't get the original Xbox until the 360 was out already. So
interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of, it was Nintendo all the way until like whenever the Wii U came out. That's pretty much.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because we deviated so heavily.
Yeah.
But part of it was, for me, it was just kind of fate that my cousin gave me the PS1. I don't know where I would have gone on my own organically.
I mean, that's just that's the thing. It's whatever your family had beforehand.
Yeah.
I did know about the PlayStation. I would go to friends' houses and I would play GTA San Andreas. But in Guitar Hero, I think. But that was it. I never touched COD. I never touched... I did Crash Bandicoot games. I played them like at my cousin's house and everything. Because they had the PS1 and the PS2. And there was also like a knockoff Mario Kart Crash Bandicoot game. That was Crash Bandicoot Racing. Mm-hmm, but it was literally Mario Kart. It was actually really fun.
It's fondly remembered in gaming history.
So you know the game I'm playing?
I know it. I've never played it, but I've heard
it was like better than it had any right being. I'm surprised it never got a sequel.
I think it did. I think it got a remaster or a sequel, like a remake, recently. And everyone's kind of just like, who cares? Because we were playing Mario Kart.
It is too late. It is a bit too late. They didn't capitalize on it. But yeah, I guess I'll hand it back to you to continue your transition to PS2 and then... Because there's nothing really on mine. It's just Nintendo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for PS2 and sort of continuing down that road, I don't remember how I got it, but I think at some point PS. It's a similar situation. The PS3 came out, and then I got the PS2. And so I played a lot of I have a lot of core memories of playing all the exclusive games.
What was your first PlayStation game?
Well,
if you remember.
Yeah, well, it was the first one I remember is Crash Bandicoot, and then there's another one that I played that was like some kind of puzzle game that no one ever has heard of in their lives that I don't remember the name of, but it was like a interesting 3D puzzle. And the PS1 was really cool because you were able to play games in 3D, sort of the way that Super Mario was the Mario 64.
Yeah.
So
it was like 3D platformer.
Yeah. So for me, that was like the first time that I experienced that kind of gameplay.
Banjo and Kazooie was that game? That was on Xbox though.
Yeah, I never played Banjo Kazooie. Is that exclusive?
I don't remember.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of the exclusives I played in the PS2 era, but I was playing PS1 games, so it was like Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy and
what were some of the early, because since I didn't experience the early PlayStation era, what were some of like the signature PlayStation exclusives early that were like console sellers?
Well, for sure it was Final Fantasy. That was like huge, and it's really surprising now that wasn't exclusive back then.
Yeah, I didn't even know that it's an Xbox nowadays too, and
it used to be an
Nintendo
exclusive
too.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Now it's so widely available on different consoles that it's hard to imagine a world where it was exclusive to
I have
Sony,
never played any of those games.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why is because it was exclusive early on, and
I think it's because
really have
it's animated,
access to it. Well, it's barely. That's fucking all pixels and shit, back then. I played Metal Gear Solid, the first one. So there's Metal Gear, which I didn't play, and no one really played. And Metal Gear Solid was like the first one that put that series on the map.
Yeah.
And that's a PS1 game. Really, really innovative for its time.
I've heard, yeah.
There's a boss where it looks like your screen's frozen, and you have to switch the port of your controller from 1 to 2.
Really?
And that's like part of the game. That's
How do you know to do that?
I know. Does
the game tell you that?
No.
You have to switch?
You just have to like find out on your own.
Wait, what is it you have to do exactly?
So the I was playing this on the PS2, but the PS1 works the same way, where you have to physically you have like a port for your controllers,
and you have to pull it and put it in the second one because like the boss hacks into your shit or something.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's really fucking cool. I know.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I missed out. I never played that game.
So that was really mind blowing, and I was playing with my friend, and we're like trying to figure it out, and for us like the internet was available, so we like eventually caved in, had to look it up. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, who would think to do that? Unfortunately, I had a used copy of the game, and there was this boss whose name is Sniper Wolf or something. What? And there's a boss where she's like,
the boss's name is Sniper Wolf?
I think Wolf, yeah.
I guess that's her name. Is that where she gets her name from?
I think that's her name. I don't know. It's not. Well, whatever. So every time I beat that boss, the game would freeze, and this time it was not on purpose.
Did you think it was on purpose though?
No, I didn't, because it was like clearly like
bugging out
in the middle of like a cutscene or something. It would like bug out. Yeah, so I could never pass that point in the game. Never finished it, but I really enjoyed my time playing it.
Yeah. So
that was one of them. There's this game, still to this day, one of my favorite games I've ever played, that no one's ever heard of. Also an exclusive PlayStation 1 game. It's called Legend of the Dragoon, which it's one of those like anime Final Fantasy type games.
Yeah, your favorite.
Well, I actually like them a lot. And so what that game did for me was what Final Fantasy VII did for a lot of people who were playing during that time period. This game came out a few years later, and I think probably a lot of people thought of it as a ripoff of Final Fantasy, so it never really picked up steam. But me playing that first, I was really impressed with it. Where there was like one of the main playable characters dies in the game, which is something that was unheard of. I mean, Final Fantasy VII did that first, but for me, that was the first time I was experiencing. So I was like, oh my god. And everything from the music, the story, the gameplay, it was turn-based, but it was more engaging than that because you had combos within the turn-based system where it was like you have to time buttons in order to get more damage and to get like special moves and stuff.
So was it like time? One of those? Was it like quick time events?
Kind of. It was like there was like a square. There was like a square in the center.
Like those dance games.
Kind of, and you had to like press X, but you had to time it properly in order to like get combos and get more damage and stuff. So it kind of made the turn-based system less.
You know boring. What? It's like Paper Mario.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Do go on.
If you've ever played Paper Mario, it's the same thing. No, keep going. I'm not going to go into that.
Okay, sure. Well, yeah. So
but it is like that.
That was one of the.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. That was that. I think that was a game where I kind of like became a gamer, where I was like, wow, this medium. Yeah, like this medium is really interesting and it's not like anything else out there.
And how old were you?
I was probably like 7 or 8.
Okay, and you were smart enough to understand.
I was smart enough to I could finally read by then, and I could like understand the.
And is that the exact thought that went to your head? Like, wow, this medium is.
No, but I felt like actual emotions from playing the game. Like I felt.
It made you cry?
No, I'm not a pussy.
Wow.
Nah, just kidding. Yeah. So other notable PS1 games that I didn't necessarily play, but are important for describing the relevance and popularity of PlayStation includes Gran Turismo, which was the highest selling PS1 game. I never liked racing games. I don't think there's a single one. I mean, besides Mario Kart, that's the only one.
You ever play Need for Speed?
No.
Wow.
I'm just not into car games personally.
Neither am I. But those are the only ones that I've liked. In case you're wondering at all.
Mm-hmm. Also, for a lot of people, it was Tomb Raider, and Tomb Raider was a big hit for PlayStation.
That was on Nintendo too, though.
Was it? I don't think so. Oh. I think that was a PlayStation exclusive.
I'm gonna cut that out.
Which is another one.
Because that probably sounded really dumb.
It's another one that you're like, what the fuck? Like Tomb Raider is everywhere. You can play everything.
I mean, I've played the new ones, the remakes and all that stuff. They're really good.
And then you had the invention of the horror genre really on PlayStation 1, which was
Resident Evil
and Silent Hill, where nothing like that had ever.
The Resident Evil games were,
and they were genuinely scary to people at the time.
Did you play it?
I did not, and I wish I did.
You were too scared.
Yeah, part of it was I was just never interested in horror games, so it never really hit my radar. But I wish I had like an older brother or something that would like play that and play at night. And yeah, a lot of people tell me about they have a lot of fond memories playing that game and getting scared shitless, which is hilarious because if you look at the game now, the graphics are so shit.
Garbage.
Yeah, it's like how do you get scared from that?
If you played the remakes though,
yeah, I want to.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten to it yet. But...
Neither have I, but I've seen clips of it. It looks good. Mm-hmm. I haven't downloaded it. I've just never played it.
Yeah. So that covers PS1 era. Shall we dive into PS2 a little bit, or do you want to talk about Xbox?
Yeah. So the way I got into Xbox, so I was a Nintendo kid all the way up until I was in 8th grade. So in 8th grade is when I was first introduced to a shooter or whatever. I went to my cousin's house and he had an original Xbox for some reason, and we were babysitting, like me and my dad were babysitting his dogs or whatever, but he didn't have a Nintendo console, which I remember at the time really pissed me off. I was like, oh my god, what are we gonna do like this whole weekend? It's so boring. But he had an Xbox and he had the first Halo, and it was 8th grade, which I want to say was maybe like 2011 for me. No,
2010.
Yeah, 2010 for me, which.
So the game was already like 10 years old.
The game was, almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
But I remember I played it. Me and my dad put the game in, and that's all I played the whole weekend. It was the first Halo. I passed it like twice in the first weekend, and then I didn't want to leave. And then when we left, the next Christmas I was like, I want an Xbox so I can play Halo. And then I found out there's a Halo 2. So I was like, I want an Xbox so that I can play Halo and then play Halo 2. And then that following Christmas, I got the first Halo. I got the original Xbox. Not only did I get the original Xbox, I got the original Xbox Halo edition, which they made for some reason. Like they were confident in the product back then. It's literally just a green Xbox, but it's like transparent, so you can see all the parts.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I still have it. It's not here, but I have it. And I got that copy of Halo 2 right there. Nice. The Steelbook edition. And for like a solid 2 years, a year or two, all I played was Halo 1 and Halo 2. No Xbox Live. I didn't even know Xbox Live existed. I just played the campaigns over and over and over and over again. I know the first 2 games off the back of my head. And then it was like late 2011 when I was like, oh shit, there's an Xbox 360 apparently. And, this game Halo Reach just came out or whatever. That's when it came, because at that point, Halo 3 ODST, and Halo Reach Halo Reach was about to come out. So for the next Christmas, my 2011 Christmas, I think it was, I might have the years wrong, but for a Christmas, I ordered again a 360 from Santa Claus. And with the 360, I ordered the Halo Reach, ODST, and Halo 3.
Well, random side question, but how did you find out Santa Claus wasn't real?
What are you talking about? He's still real.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't kid yourself.
Well, I'm a Jew, so my parents are just like, Santa Claus isn't real, and this is what happened during the Holocaust.
Okay, no, I mean, I think Santa Claus, when I found out he wasn't real, was maybe like a year after I got the 360.
So you were like in high school?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, I did go a long time.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was like freshman year of high school.
That's pretty bad.
That is pretty bad. Well, that's not bad. That just means I have faith and imagination.
You definitely have something.
Yeah. A word that we can't say without getting canceled. But you distracted me. Santa, we're not talking about Santa. Childhood innocence. Yeah. So my intro to Xbox was purely out of coincidence, but it was large in part due to Halo. And then during late 8th grade and early high school, I met new friends who I'm still friends to this day. I'm still friends with to this day. And I found out that they were also on Xbox. So eventually I found out about like Xbox Live and all this crazy shit. And Halo Reach was my first multiplayer Xbox game. My first multiplayer game in general. Like I got internet and I got the Xbox Live and whatever, and I started playing with real people. I was a little kid. Yeah, that was like when I entered the mainstream gaming sphere. And when I was a kid, I knew about the PlayStation 3, of course. But I was a kid, and from what I remember, I was just interested in Halo, and also, Xbox had Gears of War, which at the time was one of the selling points of the console. Nowadays, I think people have forgotten it, which is a bit unfortunate because I think it's doing better than Halo in a lot of weird ways. But Gears of War was another drawing factor for me to the console because I did remember like looking into PlayStation when, especially like my junior and senior year of high school. And the only game that stood out of interest was The Last of Us.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, but like everything else to me was just kind of like, whatever. Not to dox it, because nowadays I don't have an alliance, but like definitely like, during the whole like Xbox 360, because the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 were like, that was like they were like going head to head.
That's when it was like the pinnacle of the console wars.
Yeah.
For sure.
Xbox was like fighting with Halo, PlayStation had Last of Us, Killzone, if that even counts.
I don't know. Killzone's. Well, I think they probably tried to make like a Halo type game, and that was Killzone,
which was garbage.
Yeah,
because I did play Killzone.
I played it too, and I didn't like it.
It wasn't good.
My PS3 came with Killzone 3.
Yeah, that's the one I played.
Yeah,
and it wasn't good.
Well, I don't.
It was a fine game. To be fair to the developers, it was fine, but like it was a time where being fine wasn't appropriate.
Well, I want to backtrack a little because I want to get to the bottom of what is it about Halo that when you originally played it that made you fall in love with it so much.
Well, you gotta remember that it was also my first shooter, right? For a lot of people, Call of Duty was their first shooter. COD 4. Mm-hmm. I didn't play Call of Duty until my freshman year of high school. So I think the thing about Halo that drew me was also first. It was my first exposure to a shooter, which I think has a bigger impact on you than people like to.
Oh,
pretend
dude!
It does.
Little boys, especially, you give them their first shooting game, and it's like
and like Halo, because in Halo you're shooting aliens, right? But in the original Halo, you could shoot your Marine friends too, and kill them, and they would like turn on you and shit. So after I played the game like 3-4 times, I did start killing my allies, and I, just for fun, whatever. I don't have any like, I'll never shoot up a school.
That's good.
Not yet.
I'm glad. I'd like to make the same statement right now.
Yeah, but in a way, Halo also gave me my first COD experience in a way, because I did find out you could do that. Like, I remember feeling bad. Like, I genuinely felt bad. I remember the first time I killed my Marine ally in Halo 1. Because the first Halo is really bloody. Mm-hmm. Especially with the graphics. It's really over the top, actually, if you think about it. But I remember killing them, and I felt dirty. I felt bad. Because I never played COD, I never played anything else. That was my first shooter. I'd been a Nintendo kid.
So it was like the first time you were shooting another human.
Yeah. And it was like frowned upon. And like even in the game, they would like, the Marines would like shit talk you and then eventually turn on you. But eventually I don't want to sound creepy, but it triggered something in me that I was like, oh, I want to do it more.
I mean, I know what you mean. For me, that was the first time I played a graphic game. Was
that was my first graphic game.
It was GTA 4, I want to say, or maybe another GTA. What was
it? Was it San Andreas?
Well, it was in Liberty City. So I don't know if I think it was in Liberty City.
Yeah, that is GTA 4.
But
no, that's Vice City.
Maybe it was Vice City. It was a PS2 game.
That's Vice City.
It was a PS2 game. I remember the first thing I did. I had a baseball bat and I beat up an old lady with my baseball bat, and that was the most I've ever laughed in my entire life to this day. Probably like I remember the next day my fucking abs were sore because I was laughing so much. Oh my god! And yeah, that was my first experience with like anything.
That was
graphic.
Your first kill.
That was my first kill in a video game. In a human kill in a video game. Yeah, okay. But not just kill, but like I brutally murdered her with a bat. Yeah. Yeah. And it felt great.
I didn't play GTA San Andreas that much. I played it a little bit as a kid, but I wasn't old enough to register what was happening.
Yeah.
But I do know I played it.
I never owned a GTA game until GTA 5.
Yeah.
So I was always playing at
5 was my first
friend's house.
Official GTA game. So you went... So yeah, going back to it, how did you go from PS2 to PS3? Was it also just sort of like did you get it for Christmas or?
Yeah, so I think with PS3, what year is that? Like 2008. I think that was the first one that I actually bought on my own. And
you bought it yourself? How'd you get?
Well,
the money?
I mean, like it wasn't a hand me down.
It was a hand me down.
Like it wasn't a hand me down. That was the first one where like I got it for my birthday or whatever it was.
Is that not a hand me down?
No, a hand-me-down's like coming from my cousin's like, here's my PS3. The PS4 just came out. You can have my PS3 now. That's
I see what you mean. It wasn't like a pity thing.
Yeah, sure. So for PS3,
you got it for Christmas.
Well, Hanukkah, but
right.
But I think it was for my birthday or something. I got a PS3.
The inferior Christmas.
I mean, it's actually 7 times better. Or 8 times. There's 8 days. I should know this.
Is it 8 days?
I think Hanukkah's 8 days, yeah.
You get 8 days off?
No, you don't get off, but there's like 8 days of gifts and stuff.
Oh, that is
especially when you're little.
Oh, that is better than Christmas.
But it's usually like small shitty gifts every day.
Instead of
like
a bunch
one
of shitty
nice
gifts one day.
Instead of one nice gift, you get. I remember like when I was little, I don't know why, but one of the days I got it was like every day I was getting a new Star Wars movie for Hanukkah.
So you would get. Well, they weren't 7 yet, so you would get 6.
I guess. But I didn't know what Star Wars was, so I was like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Like, I want actually good shit, you know?
Wow.
So I remember being, like, upset that I was getting, like, I felt very disappointed.
It's okay, you were uncultured.
I didn't know, and I honestly stand by that, how upset I was.
Interesting. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, well, we could probably have a whole thing about Star Wars, but I feel like we're going to have to do a lot of editing in this.
That's okay.
Yeah, so... Well, I wanna go back to PS2 a little bit because for PS2 there was a lot of great games that also solidified my sort of gaming experience, and for me those include Kingdom Hearts. Are you familiar with Kingdom Hearts?
I am. Yeah, I've never played them, but I know that they're kind of like the Dark Souls. They're kind of Dark Souls.
Dark Souls, yeah, kind of, yeah. That's a good way.
I know that they're tough, and I know that they have a convoluted story that goes out of comprehension, like after like the third one. You just don't understand.
The story is complete nonsense.
Yeah, this is like a bunch of Disney characters.
Yeah, and I like those anime type games, so it was combining the East and the West.
It has good music.
It has amazing music.
Yeah.
And generally, I think a lot of the Japanese games have amazing music.
They do.
The Japanese RPGs. But that was the first game where you're like, it's fucking... Cloud.
Was it exclusive?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, wow.
It was exclusive. So it was like...
So that wasn't on Nintendo consoles?
No, dude.
What
Absolutely
the fuck?
Not. I think to this day it's not on Nintendo consoles.
But they're not bloody, are they?
No.
So then why aren't they... But they're Nintendo products?
Why are they Nintendo products?
Oh, no, they're Disney products.
Yeah.
Right. That is still weird because it's like an anime-based game, not on a Nintendo.
Well, a lot of the anime-based games were being developed by Japan, and that's why they were exclusive to PlayStation as opposed to, being on Xbox.
Kingdom Hearts was like the first exclusive that you were like, that hooked you to.
That was another one of those early on where I played it late. I played Kingdom Hearts late. I was in high school. I was like a freshman in high school, and the games had come out early 2000s is when the games started coming out. So like 2003, 2005.
So and during the PlayStation 2 era, were you aware that Xbox was a thing?
During the PlayStation 2 era?
Yeah.
Not really, to be honest. It was really not on my radar. And I had some friends that... Well, that was the original Xbox, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The PS2 was versus the...
Honestly, no. It was a lot of just PlayStation 2, and I
all
think
your
maybe
friends
the
were on
Wii had just
PlayStation?
come out. Or not yet.
No, the Wii came out way later.
It was a lot of DS and PlayStation 2.
And all your friends had like the PlayStation as well.
No one really had an Xbox, yeah. Or they did, and I was like, didn't really...
Nobody talked about it.
Cared. Yeah. So Kingdom Hearts was probably one of the first series where, like, long-going series where I was like, wow, this is cool. And then, yeah, getting into PS3, I got the Killzone 3 bundle, and I remember playing it on my fucking big box TV. Yeah. Where my TV couldn't even do HD quality. It had no HD resolution. Yeah. So I'm playing Killzone 3 and I can't read any of the texts because it's too blurry, and the whole game is blurry as fuck. So that's probably also one of the reasons why I didn't like that game too much. But I still continued playing it even though my television did not have the resolution for it.
I mean, I played that game and I passed it. It was fine. It was just like it was a game.
Yeah.
It was like a generic futuristic shooter. Nothing stood out on it at all.
But it did lead me to that, purchase led me to developing my PSN username.
which is
Scorpio Zone.
So you got it from that game.
So what the story behind this is that when I got my PS3, you have to sign up for a PSN.
Wait, so for the record, your username, your PSN name is Scorpio Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, when you got the PS3, you have to sign up to PSN. So I'm like sitting in my room, like, oh crap, like I have to come up with my username that I'm gonna use for the rest of my life.
You were like, I love Scorpions and I love Killzone. So
not really, but what I did was I looked around the room. I looked around my room, and I feel like I like Googled this, like how to come up with, and this is what people were saying online was like, just look around your room and like think of the first two things that come to mind and like combine those. So there was this book series that I was reading called Alex Rider. You familiar with that book series? It was like a kid's spy. It was like James Bond, but for like adolescents.
Spy Kids.
No, it was way cooler than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot.
Spy Kids is cheesy as fuck. In a fun way, and I like Spy Kids, but it's cheesy as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was like cool and sexy for adolescents. Okay. So one of the books was called Scorpio.
Okay,
that was just the title of the book. So I saw that, and then I saw my PS3 box, but because it was a Killzone bundle, so the kill part was cut off. So I just saw the zone, and I'm looking like back and forth, and I'm like, all right, perfect. This is what
Scorpio
it's going to be.
Zone.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you've never thought of changing it ever since? And you're happy with it?
Yep.
That's funny. I mean, I guess it makes sense for your PSN number. Is that what they were called? Is that what they're called?
It's just like a PlayStation Network, like your username.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Xbox had was cooler, called gamer tags.
Yeah, I guess it's gamer tag. I don't know what it's called. I don't think it had like a name. But part of the reason I did that also was because I didn't want mine to be like fucking Penguins 007.
Like a bunch of random.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a good transition to explain how I got my username, which I think I've explained to you before, but I'll explain it again here. But it is inspired by Halo, 100%. My gamer tag is MegaGrunty259. My original gamer tag was just MegaGrunty. 259 came afterwards. So originally I wanted it to just be Grunty. That's all I wanted. And the Grunty comes from the grunts in Halo, because the grunts are my favorite species in the game. I love them. I think they're hilarious. And I think they have a lot of cool lore, which you would know if you played with a friend that paid attention.
Get to the point.
But Grunty was already taken. So I had to find a way to make it make sense. So the Mega, honestly, it came from randomness. Maybe you could blame that on Nintendo, because like I was like, I don't know, Mega Mario. I was like thinking about what do I add to keep Grunty in there? So I was like, Mega Grunty. So it ended up turning into Mega Grunty. That was the original nickname. The original game tag was Mega Grunty. But then I remember when I transitioned, there was something happened with my account. I don't remember what it was, but I had to make a new one. And I couldn't do Mega Grunty because I had already taken that.
That's so sad. So the name you wanted was already taken by
myself. So I was like, fuck. And I tried so many things and it wasn't working. So I came to the point where I had to add a number. But I didn't just want to add any number. And I didn't want to add the most generic number. Obviously, I thought of adding Mega Grunty 117. That was too basic.
Okay.
And I thought of adding other numbers or whatever. And I ended up coming up with 259 because it is also Halo related. And it is from Halo Reach. Because you haven't played the game, but Halo Reach follows a different group of Spartans. And the leader of that Spartan, his tagline is, or his signature or whatever, is Carter Spartan 0259. So I just took his number because as a kid, I liked him the most out of all the Spartans that are in the game. So I just put that shit after my name. So I put it Mega Grunty 259 and that's it. And that was the birth of my name. It's completely Halo driven. So I guess it's very fitting that yours is PlayStation driven.
Kind of.
Slash that book. And then mine is Xbox / Nintendo driven.
Mine is not themed after anything PlayStation related per se, but
of course it is Killzone.
But I just like the zone, like just the name. Like it had nothing to do with Killzone.
But you would have never thought of that.
Correct.
Were it not for PlayStation.
Correct. Yes.
So in a way, you have to thank PlayStation for your name.
Absolutely.
So that's how that came to be.
Yes.
So in PS3 was Killzone 3. Was that the one that you said?
Yes.
So, and that was PlayStation 3.
That was the first PlayStation 3 game I played.
Okay. And what's the next beat in your gaming story?
Yeah, and so obviously this is when, as we said, the peak of the rivalry here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my friends had Xbox 360, and in general, I think Xbox was winning in the beginning because they had that earlier presence with Xbox Live that PlayStation really didn't.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people just transitioned straight into 360 so they can keep playing
and
the
Halo
Halo
2
games.
and Halo 3 were really good.
Were they released for 360?
The 360 was Halo 3,
yeah.
But Halo 2 was the first Xbox Live game, which was on Xbox. And I think because of all the because nobody was really paying attention to Xbox during the PlayStation 2 era, it allowed for Xbox to just kind of gain like a secret just gathering of fucking people. So that when the 360 came out, it was just like...
They just exploded.
Yeah, they exploded with Halo 3. And Call of Duty, obviously. Which we'll get to later because they had like a deal with Xbox for like 10 years.
Yeah, I have not heard of this, so I would like to... we can pretty much jump into it now because the next thing that really solidified my gaming experience was playing Black Ops 1 on the PS3 in middle school. I think...
Was that your first Call of Duty?
That was my first Call of Duty,
Me
yes.
too. Yeah.
That was... I played it the year it came out, and then I went back to play the Modern Warfare games.
Yeah.
So... I played the shit out of Black Ops 1. I played that game so many times, like the story many times.
Yeah.
Online. I was a monster at that game online.
Oh, I was garbage, but I loved that game.
I was getting like 36-2, like 40-0, like crazy ass numbers. Yeah, it was all muscle memory too because you just learn the map. You know exactly where these fucking noobs are gonna go.
I was still I was, to be fair, I was still new to on the island experience.
Which experience?
The online experience.
Oh, but this was my first online experience. Wow. But I just played it a lot. I just played it a lot, and eventually, and the maps were pretty limited. So you play, whatever. There's like 8 maps. Something.
We talked about it was like 16 maps.
Is it that many?
Yeah.
Well,
nowadays you would think it's only 8 maps because of how many maps they release.
There was a voting system where people would like choose which map to play, and so there were a bunch of maps that no one ever fucking played because they were never voted for.
Yeah, but they were there.
I guess
that's the beauty of it.
I guess so. And I know like Black Ops 1 had a DLC that came out where they added new maps and stuff, and I really regret not ever.
They were all great, by the way. All the
I'm
Black
really
Ops maps.
Looking back on it.
The
really
DLC maps were awesome.
I was like, DLC? I'm not gonna just like make a new game. I don't know. That was kind of my.
There was a DLC map where it was a golf course. There was a DLC map where it was a hotel, like 2 hotels, and like no, the DLC maps were fun.
Yeah, I'm that is a regret for me for sure. But yeah, I mean after that, what how was it for you?
Well, I stayed with Halo up until Halo Reach came out, and then that's when I was introduced to Call of Duty. Black Ops 1 was my first Call of Duty as well. I played the campaign, I played the multiplayer. Well, my first Call of Duty experience was actually Zombies. Zombies was the first thing I played, for some reason.
I think a lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
I used to play, like, in high school, I used to play Zombies with my friend, and he would not want to play multiplayer.
Yeah, I don't know. I had this closed-minded impression, or this closed-minded view of Call of Duty, because I was just used to Halo. I had this closed-minded view of, like, I don't care about games where you shoot other people. Like, I want to shoot aliens.
Yeah, okay.
So, like, I think that's why when I got into COD, I went into zombies, and my friend also like my friend that introduced me into COD geared me towards that. But then eventually I did try the campaign and the multiplayer, and I was like, oh, it's actually kind of fun to shoot people in the game. And I also did the thing where I went back to play like Modern Warfare 2, and I never played COD 4. But
I never played it either.
I went back to play Modern Warfare 2 and World at War, which was the prequel.
Oh wow, you went really deep.
Yeah, the prequel to Black Ops 1.
Kind of.
You could say.
Yeah.
It's somewhat connected. But that was my kind of transition into just, I became a shooter guy. I didn't abandon like my Nintendo shit. I still had my Wii. I even bought the Wii U. But I did kind of just go into shooters, and I got really good at Halo and Call of Duty. And all my friends were just on Xbox. Like, I had nothing against PlayStation. They were just all on Xbox. And because I was introduced to Call of Duty, I started to like it. Because after Black Ops 1, it was Modern Warfare 3, right?
Yeah.
So I got Modern Warfare 3, and then after Modern Warfare 3, it was Black Ops 2, and like that was like the golden era
for sure.
COD. And I do remember that Activision had a deal with Microsoft at that time where all the DLCs would come out on Xbox like a month to 2 months before it came out on PlayStation. I don't know why. That was just a thing. So I was always playing all the DLCs before like all the PlayStation people. And when I found that out,
1 month, congratulations.
Yeah. You know, when you're a kid, you know, that stuff was like, oh, we're cooler. Like nowadays, it's ridiculous. But back in the day, like, I don't know, when I started to find out about the PlayStation versus Xbox shit, like, I was like, oh, we're cooler.
I think that
we have like the most popular games DLCs.
I think today, for a lot of the Square Enix games like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, there's a window of release where it comes out on PlayStation first.
Yeah, but it's similarly. Like a week or two.
Yeah, it's something pathetic.
It's not as much as a
it's
month.
like it's almost like, why even bother doing that? It's not a flex.
And when the Xbox and 2 or 3 years into the Xbox One versus PS4 cycle, Activision switched sides, and the PS4 started to get all the DLCs early. Unfortunately, that's where the garbage CODs were coming out. So nobody gave a shit. But all the good CODs had, you know, Xbox's good graces by their hands.
I was really anti-DLC back then. I was like, why am I going to buy extra shit for this game that I already own?
I wasn't really. I didn't really understand the... Honestly, I'm considering everything that's happened in today's gaming sphere, I am pro DLC. Fuck the battle pass. Fuck the supply drops. All that nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
I would take DLC...
Well,
maps and all that
I'll
shit.
take DLC if it's worthwhile.
Yeah, and back in the day, I would say it was worthwhile.
But it is irritating that you can't just have that content in the game already.
Well, because they developed back in the day, they used to actually develop it afterwards. They didn't just hold it back like they do nowadays. But yeah, so like that's kind of like where, because you know that's kind of like where my rivalry that's where Xbox grabbed my 12-year-old brain or whatever. That's where it grabbed my loyalty.
Okay.
Because of the Call of Duty and the Halo and the Gears of War, I was like, what does fucking PlayStation have? Not just that too, but I don't know if it was during Modern Warfare 3, but there was I don't know if you remember this, but there was a major Sony hack that happened when PlayStation Online tried to replicate Xbox Live. Because I don't think it's much of a debate that at least during 360 and PlayStation 3 era, Xbox Live was the superior system. Because I remember when Sony launched their system, their shit got hacked for like a month. And you couldn't play it. You couldn't log on to PlayStation Online at all.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but back then I wasn't really that into playing games online, so it didn't bother me that PlayStation was probably, as you're saying correctly, inferior to Xbox.
Did you have friends?
All my friends had Xbox.
Oh, so you were alone on PlayStation?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty
and
for
so,
PS3 era.
And your friends being on Xbox didn't make you go like, I should get an Xbox to
No.
play with my friends.
No.
Because that's another thing I was gonna say is that Xbox, not only did they have Xbox Live, but they had the party chat system, which where you can go into an online game, but start your own party where you don't hear the other people and it's just you and your friends.
Yeah.
And PlayStation had PlayStation Online, but they had no such thing as like a party system or shit like that. So like if you wanted to talk to your friends, it had to be with everyone else, like all the random people in the game too.
Yeah, for me it didn't matter because all my friends were on Xbox anyway, and I didn't even own a mic.
So were you like the loser friend that didn't have a fucking
No,
Xbox?
and I argued for hours and hours with my friends about why PlayStation is better.
What was your reasoning? What was your reasoning back then?
I mean, my reasoning is the same now, which is that the exclusives are just way better. Way better.
What exclusive during the PS3 during the PS3 Xbox era? What exclusive would you say were better than Halo and Gears of War?
Yeah, so PS3 era, and this is PS3 era, but God of War was a PS2 game originally.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you God of War. God of War
when I watched my cousin play that.
I'll give you that one.
When I was little, I watched my cousin play that, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like
that game's hardcore.
That was another one of those games where I was like, I didn't know that video games can be like this. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was one. For PS3, what else was there? Well, obviously all the Naughty Dog games. So like, I was a huge Uncharted fan in high school.
Oh,
and still am to this day.
I've never played those games. But
You've never played them?
No, but I've always wanted to, because I know that I'm scared to because I know the first one and the second one are dated at this point.
And well, the first game is almost like their trial run. Yeah. It's still good, but it's not. It's nowhere in comparison to like the later.
It's
games.
like Assassin's Creed.
Yes, exactly.
The first one's garbage.
But it's not garbage. Like Uncharted 1 is still a good game.
But it's dated.
But it's definitely like you can tell that they were still getting their bearings together.
Yeah. It's like Assassin's Creed.
Uncharted 2
That's when it gets really
had a fucking awesome intro with the train.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And the way that they did the narrative in general was really great.
And I heard the third and the fourth one were even better.
I mean, I'm so biased. I love like generally, critics say that Uncharted 2, out of the first three, Uncharted 2 is the best one.
Yeah.
But for me, those games had already come out, so they weren't new. The first one I played when it was released was Uncharted 3.
Yeah.
And I was so fucking hyped for that shit, and the intro is so fucking cool. It was, so those games really solidified, like, how could I ever think about getting an Xbox when I'd be missing out on all this stuff?
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So you don't like 3 and 4 then?
What?
Uncharted.
No, I love them.
Okay.
Yeah, but I played Uncharted 1 through 3 first, and
so would you say Uncharted is like your Halo?
I don't think so, because I think Call of Duty is my Halo. I think is a closer comparison.
I don't know if that's even comparable. Halo, because Call of Duty was a yearly. They came out every year. Yeah,
but Black Ops 1 had a really great story, and it was also the first shooter that I played regularly.
I see. Okay, I see what you mean.
And so that was the first time where I'm like, oh, shooting games,
Yeah.
And that's what made me into like an FPS player.
An FPS guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're both mainly FPS guys when
it
comes to at least gaming nowadays. Right?
Yeah, although I think
we still dabble in other shit.
I think I'm getting away from that now, where I haven't really been playing. I haven't really played COD at all.
That's a different story.
Well, I think we can
have an entire conversation about
I'm
the
just
way COD's gone.
But no, but I think part of that goes to like where my interests are today. But we can hit on that like when we discuss what we're up to these days when it comes to gaming at the end. But I'm trying to think. I mean, there were other titles during the PS3 era for sure that that were exclusive. I mean, I still played a lot of PS2 games during that era, so for me it was like Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh yeah,
which was a fucking amazing game.
Mm.
That was another great one. So there's so many amazing PlayStation exclusives, whereas on Xbox it's like maybe a handful of games, and it's
Xbox,
just Halo.
Xbox had like blockbusters.
Yeah, sure,
Like,
but I mean, let's be real. Xbox just had Halo,
which is a blockbuster.
Yeah, and it is a great series, and
Yeah.
I understand why people like it. Kind of.
They also had Gears of War. If you talk to anybody that was on Xbox,
but no one's like, I'm gonna buy an Xbox so I can play Gears of War.
No, it was. I'm gonna buy an Xbox for Halo, and they have Gears of War.
Yeah,
it wasn't like.
But on PlayStation, you got people who are like, I want to buy a PlayStation for Final Fantasy. I want to buy a PlayStation for Uncharted. I want to buy it for God of War. You know, there's so many games that can stand on their own that people can go, this is my favorite game. That's exclusive to Sony.
Yeah. But would you say that... Who do you think won? PS3 versus Xbox? The PS3 360 era. Who do you think actually won?
Depends what you qualify as winning. Like how many things. I don't... Who sold more
consoles? I don't know. In terms of... I don't know. I guess in terms of... Because the way that I see it, at least in the long run, right? PS1 had a competition. So it doesn't count. PS2 versus the original Xbox, I want to say that they're even because Xbox was a nobody, and PlayStation 2 was established already and had.
That's not a good.
What do you mean
comparison?
How's that not a comparison?
You can't say that the PS2, which is the most successful console that's ever been made, versus
the Xbox
was a tie.
But because the Xbox had the original Halo, which was...
No, that's a garbage take.
No, that is not a garbage take. No, it's not.
No,
because it had Halo, which became the most successful franchise.
It's not a tie.
I would say it's a tie.
It's not a tie at all. Because there's so many freaking franchises that got started from PS2.
But how many are still around?
Yeah, a lot of them.
But they're not even exclusive. Fucking Final Fantasy's on Xbox now, too.
Well, you gotta wait a month first.
Okay, well, the PS2. I'll say that the PS2 and Xbox era is irrelevant. Nobody really remembers it.
Well, I remember it.
Whatever it is we disagree or agree on, nobody really remembers it.
So
it's not as relevant as 360
well, I think
versus
PS3. The more interesting conversation is PS3 versus Xbox 360,
which I think you can give to Xbox.
And what's your reasoning for that?
The reasoning for that is Xbox Live was superior both technologically, convenient wise, price wise. Also,
price wise, why it was cheaper than
actually, PlayStation Network was free.
Yeah,
which is the reason why it got hacked. And it was
that was another big talking point for me during that time, where it was like, oh, I'm getting it for free.
And but it got hacked, and it was garbage. So if you paid back in the day, 360 was it wasn't that expensive. Nowadays it is, but back in the day, it was
what is it, $60 or something?
$60 a year.
Yeah,
it's nothing. That's nothing.
That's how much it costs now for PlayStation, at least.
Yeah. So I would say I would give it to 360 for Xbox Live just being better in terms of what it did for the industry. And I would say for Halo, because during the 360 is when Halo was at its peak with Halo 3 and Halo Reach. Even if you weren't aware of the atmosphere, because if you were, you would see that it was crazy. I mean, Halo 3 and Halo Reach were peak. We can say that for the Halo podcast. But they were peak. And from what I remember, The Last of Us was the main thing that the PS3 brought, but it didn't bring it until the end of the life cycle.
Right. That was already at the end of the life cycle. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So there were so many other amazing games.
There were, but they went under the radar. So I think in terms of
maybe to you,
in terms of the mainstream,
to you,
to me, because in terms of the mainstream of what you saw as the public, you didn't hear about Shadow of the Colossus or.
But I didn't hear about Halo really.
That wasn't
fucking
crazy. That's ridiculous. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy that you didn't hear about.
I mean, I did. I remember commercials coming out, and I was always just like, this is
You're from New York.
Xbox
You didn't
stuff.
see Times Square littered. Bill Gates sold the first copy of Halo 3. Like, it's not like one of those things where it's like, oh, it was just popular. No. Bill Gates sold the first copy of Halo 3.
Is that in Times Square or something?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not just like hanging out in Times Square.
I'm just saying it was a big deal. Like, it was a huge thing.
I know.
He sold the first Xbox 3 or some shit like that.
I know it was a big gaming moment whenever there was a release of a Halo game.
Well, Halo 3 specifically was like the one. Like, that's, I mean, you could say, some people will argue that it's Halo 2, but I think if you're arguing in terms of like media engagement and people that aren't in the gaming sphere knowing about Halo, it's Halo 3. That's the one that like got it. Like, even if people that didn't know gaming, they were like, oh yeah, they thought that was Halo. They didn't know that was Master Chief. They were like, they saw like Master Chief's helmet and they were like, oh yeah, that's Halo. Like, they thought that was his name or whatever. Like, that's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I would give the 360 versus PS3 era, I would give it to the Xbox. But you just wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to Xbox One and PlayStation 4, I would say 100% Sony wiped their ass.
Oh my god!
With Xbox.
I mean, to the point where it's just embarrassing for Xbox.
It was embarrassing. I mean, those people, the Xbox people that were in charge of the thing, all got fired. From what I recall.
I will still defend, even if it may be a captain on his sinking ship. I will always defend PS3 over Xbox 360.
I will say PlayStation 3 probably didn't get the love it deserved. I'll say that
because for me.
For you. That's what I mean, right?
From me.
It has its fans, but I think it probably deserved more love than it did. That got overshadowed by the blockbuster, explosiveness that the 360 came with Halo.
I think, like I said, 360 did really well because they had the online shit figured out.
The online
way
shit helped
better.
I would say the online shit helped more than Halo, because if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't even...
I think probably you're right that generally the consensus would be that the 360 is like better, but for me, it had the PlayStation 3 had qualities that were more important to me.
Yeah. You also didn't have the right friends.
Yeah. Well, I did, according to you. You should be saying that I did because they were all on Xbox.
Well, you didn't, because if I knew you back then, I would have made you play Halo 3.
I wouldn't have gotten it. I
wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you would. But I would say that after the 360 was definitely Microsoft's peak, because
For sure.
the PS4 dominated Xbox, I think, all throughout. I don't think that the Xbox One ever got anywhere close to even competing with the PS4. I remember all my friends. Well, I don't remember all my friends, but I remember the general consensus being, people that were on PlayStation 2 bought a 360, but then when the Xbox,
they switched to PS4.
They switched back to PS4.
So all of my friends who had 360s, they all switched to PlayStation. I'm like, welcome to the fucking side.
Because and totally understandable. Like, I agree.
I mean, they botched. I was watching E3. I was watching.
This is disappointing.
I never watch any of the Microsoft launches, but for that one, I was very interested. I was already like coherent enough where I was like, I wanted to get a sense, and to get a sense of like what the marketing would be. So I watched both of them. Obviously, that was a huge fuck up on
I remember the commercial.
The commercial where it was like how to share games.
Thanks.
So savage, man. So savage.
They deserve that. Microsoft were complete morons.
Well, let's explain it for people who don't know what we're talking about.
Well, in a weird way, I almost want to say that they were ahead of their time, because...
Oh my god.
Hold on. Because the shit that Microsoft was trying to push back in 2015 is shit that is mainstream now.
Well, okay, so back then...
they wanted to go digital only.
They basically wanted to, like, register... like, if you
always
put a game
online.
If you put a game in, it was like registered to your device.
Yeah.
So other people couldn't use
Access
that disc.
Yeah.
So then Sony came out, and during this whole time when the PS4 was coming out, I was like, how to share a game on PS4, and it was literally like
a physical copy.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, physical copies were still
the main thing that people bought. Yeah.
Yeah. But Microsoft was they were really pushing for this fucking digital, like, your ID, like, your digital footprint. This is your fucking console. And if somebody else wants it, they can't access it. They need their own console and their own digital shit.
Yeah, but that's fucked up because
it is fucked up.
People want to play games and they want to share with their friends. So
you were thinking about it the wrong way. What I meant about their ahead of the game, or too far in advance, was the digital thing, because they also had a thing with like your Xbox. The Xbox One was always online, and you couldn't connect to it unless you were connected to the internet. And you couldn't play your game unless you were connected to the internet. And back in the day, that was insane.
I think that's still insane.
That is still insane, but what's even crazier...
They're not having their time.
But what's even crazier... No, it is, because nowadays it's accepted. Both...
No, I think you should be able to play a game if you're not connected to the internet.
But it's accepted by the mainstream people, because with Call of Duty, both on the PlayStation 5 and on the Series X, you can't fucking play COD unless you have an internet connection, because the physical copy, even nowadays, the physical copy is pointless. The only reason you buy the physical copy is to have the illusion that you fucking own anything, because you put in the disc and it still has to install the goddamn thing, and then when you load it up, you can't start anything other than the campaign. You can't even load into the fucking multiplayer menu unless you're connected to the internet.
I still to this day prefer buying physical copies of games.
I do too.
In part because if for some reason I were to get locked out of my PlayStation account forever, I wouldn't be able to access any of my digital games.
Yeah.
And I still will have... So it's not the illusion that you own it. It's the actually you do.
But it's still... It's being driven away, because Call of Duty is one of the early examples.
Well, with Call of Duty, it makes sense where you should be online to play it, because predominantly, 99% of people are playing online.
Yeah.
But if you're playing, The Last of Us, there's no reason why you should have to be connected to the internet to be able to...
Well, yeah, but that's a purely single-player game. But I do think that in the future, it will... I think they're testing the waters to see how much they can get away with.
I just don't see what's in it for them. Why can't you have...
It's cheaper. They don't have to make a disc.
Oh, that they'll never... Oh, I see what you're saying. So that they'll never have physical copies. You think they're going to eventually no longer sell physical copies of discs?
Well, haven't you heard that the rumor that Best Buy in 2024 or 2025, they're going to stop selling physical media?
Well... For Best Buy, that's a good business strategy, perhaps. You can still buy
but
through
that's just
Amazon
the beginning.
Or something.
That's the beginning.
Well, I think generally the trend is moving in that direction where people are not buying physical copies of things.
Having all your information and all your shit saved in the cloud rather than in a memory disk or in the console itself is one of the things that they tried pushing in 2015, along with all the other nasty shit. But I think that little aspect was one of the things that they tried pushing that didn't hit as well as I guess it is hitting for a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah, well...
Digital game... back in the day, the idea of only buying digital, not having physical copies was insane to people. But now they have the fucking PS5 digital-only console and the Xbox Series S, which those two consoles... The Series S is one of the best-selling consoles of this generation because of its cheapness, and people don't seem to give a shit that it's only digital.
Yeah, and I think that works for a lot of people, and that's where the trend will continue to go. But I think that there'll always be some market of people who want to buy physical copies of discs.
Of course.
I think likely
we're one of them.
Well, yeah. Well, what will happen? What I could see happening is that you won't have this mass generic, just game disc that you buy with in a generic box. It's going to be just collector's edition items. So it'll be the steelbook cases and that kind of stuff, and they're not going to mass produce
I mean, if you buy even nowadays, if you buy like I remember, because when the Xbox One came out, I bought the Halo 5 limited edition, like the fucking console that was like themed after Halo 5. And it came with a physical copy, which I don't have right here because it's not that fucking good looking, if I'm being honest. But it came with a physical copy, but it was only the box. When you open the box, it was a piece of paper with the code for the game. It wasn't a disc.
That's weird.
That is weird. But that's also what happens with Call of Duty nowadays. If you order like the special edition, it comes with a fucking hard copy, but it's just a case.
Wait, so there's no disc?
You can still get the disc, but for certain editions, because they have like the Legendary Edition and they have the fucking Captain Price, Jerkoff Makarov edition.
You have to like put in a code to download extra.
Yeah,
shit.
like whatever. There's a certain edition that's like close to the super expensive one that comes with everything except the fucking disc, and it comes with the hard copy that you would see in games like that. But when you open the case, it's like just a code for you to download the game. I think it's the same even with the newest, with Halo Infinite. Where like you'll buy the fucking hard copy, but it's literally just a code for the game, and there's no actual disc. And I do think that it's a little scary that that's where, I mean, you could say it's similar to music, right? Who the fuck buys CDs?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Every entertainment medium. I mean, really, who buys film, like film or TV properties? You know,
that's happening with gaming.
I think probably gaming is the last standout where people are still buying physical discs, but it's at a higher proportion.
It's about to go out.
Yeah, for sure, and that's totally fine. That's where it needs to go. That's where the market needs to go. But bringing the conversation back to PS4, Xbox era.
Yeah, so I mean, I stuck it out with the Xbox, but I did get a PS4. So when the Xbox One came out is when I was kind of like, I was old enough to be like, this fucking, what was it called? This console war is ridiculous. It's stupid.
That's what all the losers say.
No.
Of the console. Because you're on the losing side.
No.
You know what? This is all stupid anyway.
I mean, you could say that, I guess. Maybe that was a way to, like, cope with it. Yeah. Sure. But I was also like, I want to fucking... I still want to... Because all my friends stayed on Xbox. Because, you know, we all still, like, loved Halo. We still love Gears of War. Like, at that point... Like, I am a massive Halo and Gears of War guy. So, like, I'm going to stay with Xbox until they drive those franchises into the ground if they haven't already. So, but I wanted a PS4 to try their exclusives. The first one being the
Last of Us,
the remastered version of The Last of Us. So I got a PS4, the base version, which looked much better than the fucking nasty Xbox. But when it comes to design, this is something we haven't talked about.
That's true. Yeah,
when it comes to design, I think the 360 was better than the PS3. I think the PS3 looked ugly, but the PS4 completely throws the Xbox One.
I honestly, if you told me to like picture any Xbox console in my head, I could not tell you what they look like. I
think the 360 looked nice, especially the slim version.
Well, a big selling point also in general for Xbox that we have not touched on is the controller.
Yes, I am an avid believer. And I'm glad you brought this up. I think the 360 controller is the best fucking gaming controller.
I am a supporter of symmetry.
No. Shut the fuck up. No!
Yes.
I think that no.
I don't like holding it, like, it just feels bad to me. To me, I like having the symmetrical PlayStation controller where everything's the same.
I want to, no.
It's just more comfortable to hold in my hand.
I don't think it's more comfortable, and I think that you are genuinely better at the game if you play with an Xbox game. I think if you play COD with a fucking Xbox controller, you will be better at the game because it just works better.
I don't know.
It just does. I will say the PS5 controller is the best.
The haptic feedback is awesome.
The PlayStation 5 controller is the best controller Sony has made, in my opinion. As an Xbox person, I think the PS5 controller is as close as it's come to the Xbox One. But you look at like the Xbox controllers, there hasn't been much iteration to it because is there to
already
it? It's perfect.
Perfection.
It is. It is. It pretty much is. I mean, the original Xbox controller was a fucking monstrosity. That shit, you could barely fit it in your hands. That was garbage. I know some people. My dad particularly really loves it. He has big hands.
So, is your dad? Does he play video games too?
He does. He played. He specifically just plays Halo. Just Halo.
So so maybe part of the love of Halo for you is that you like played it with your dad and stuff.
Sure. I played the first 3 games, the campaigns, a lot with my dad. But as soon as I got into Xbox Live and like the multiplayer side of things, I stopped playing with him more because he was too old to like really keep up with, the people that you fucking face online. So I played more with my friends. But I did play with my dad a lot, like the campaigns, like the first 3 games I played. You could say that like part of the love came from there too. But that's not something, I haven't done that in like 10 years already. Like we haven't played a campaign in like a really long time.
That's cool because I think my dad to this day still thinks games are just Tetris.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
No, I mean, my dad just doesn't touch multiplayer because he knows he sucks at them. So he'd rather just stick to like the campaign or whatever. But sure, to answer your question, yeah, I guess it did for the early years. But nowadays, I barely play with him. And it's just mostly me and my friends. Mostly just me, honestly. And, but I do think that the 360 controller and the Xbox One controller, and now I think the fucking Series X controller, I think that's the best feeling controller in terms of like, I think it's better.
I know. Listen,
I don't know.
People are really passionate. Xbox players are really passionate about the controller being better.
Yeah.
And I just haven't had that many hours of time spent on Xbox playing with Xbox controllers, so I can't really say with full confidence either.
I'll say that if you think the PS5 controller is better, I think that's acceptable because I think the PS5 controller is. Well, I like it. I do like that one. But the PS4 and the PS3 controller, I fucking hate it.
They're the same. I feel like
they're the same.
But even like PS4 to PS5 is not very different. The
thumbsticks just feel so flimsy to me.
But what do you think they changed from PS4 to PS5? I think
nothing.
Generally, but you're saying PS5 is so much better.
It is.
But that's what, then nothing.
No,
changed.
They did change it. Yes, they did.
Yeah, but that's what I'm asking you.
PS5 to PS4, they made it more like Xbox.
But what in terms of besides the haptic feedback? I mean, the design is basically the same.
It fits better in your hand. Like I have a PS4 controller right there. If you want to like feel the difference, like it feels.
You don't have a PS5 controller.
I don't.
I know generally it does feel like
the PS4 dirtier. Controller. It feels like you can break it in half. The
PS5 controller feels
nice. Good in your hand.
It does feel good.
Yeah, no, like I think the PS5 controller is a really good improvement. More so than the fucking design of the console. I think
that's fair. I mean, in terms of design of the console, that's not something that I really consider too much.
I did, because, at least back in the day.
I mean, sure, I guess you're like looking at it on your desk all the time.
Well, not just that. In terms of how much I have a Series S. Look at how perfectly it fits right there.
That looks nasty, bro. It looks like a fucking it's just a box. What is that, Wii?
But it looks like a Wii. Fits. If I had a PS5 or even a Series X, I can't fit that there.
It's a fucking Wii with the burn stain at the top.
If I had a Series X...
You had a hot pot that you put on top of your Wii.
That's
what that looks like, dude.
I'm gonna we edit the footage of this, I'll put a screenshot.
Okay.
PNG of what it looks like.
Good.
But you can't argue that if I had a Series X or a PS5, you can't fit that there. The only thing that fits there is a Series S.
It's because you have a bad desk.
That is true. But that's where the Series S comes in to accommodate for my shitty life.
So yeah, so
my
it's a
like,
shitty console for shitty people.
Sure, you could say that. I mean, I was broke when I bought the console. I couldn't afford it. That's another thing that I think you could give to Xbox nowadays. I mean, nowadays I don't give a shit about the console wars at all. But I think Xbox has made itself like the affordable brand in a way. Because the Series S was $250 or $300.
Yeah, that's a great price point.
A great price point to be able to play next gen games. There's a lot of arguments to be had about whether or not the console is holding back developers and all this other nonsense.
I don't think that's nonsense,
but in terms of allowing people,
yeah, it's the accessibility to people who don't care about fucking ray tracing or whatever SSD.
I think that is more important than that, than like graphics and shit like that.
For the common man, yes.
Which is the majority
of people. Most of the people are just like, I want to play the new Call of Duty, and so they just buy the cheapest option in order to do that.
And I think that's like, I think that's one of the moves, like, because obviously, I said already, Sony won the PS4, Xbox One era. And I think in a weird way, Sony is still winning the PS5 versus Series X era. They're still winning. But I think Xbox is finally starting to find their fucking ground where they're more affordable, they're less restrictive. They got Games Pass, which is superior to the fucking PS.
No.
It is.
Because I pay for PS.
But that's a new thing. When Game Pass came out, there was no PlayStation didn't have anything like that.
I don't know.
And if they did, it wasn't anywhere near to the level of.
But now it doesn't matter. Because
now it does because they fucking finally had time to copy and paste. But
not to say that Xbox didn't copy and paste shit from the PlayStation, especially after fucking up the PS the Xbox One so bad.
No,
they backtracked and they just did what Sony was doing.
But which is what they should have done.
Yeah.
It's more commendable that they fucking took their L instead of being stubborn.
Because they knew how bad they fucked up.
Yeah.
So they had to.
And then they did the thing where like they blended the like Xbox with the PCs, so you don't have to have an Xbox if you don't want to. You just have a fucking PC.
Yeah.
And Microsoft realized they can still make money that way. Which I think it was a smart move, which increases accessibility to people, right?
I think I will give you that the accessibility to the general public is a lot better just because of the price point of that model.
It's backwards compatible,
right?
Which I know the PS5 is not.
I don't know.
You can't play PS4 games on the PS5. If I bought the PS5,
you can. You can play,
but I can't put in Spider-Man 4.
Digital, only digital games.
I have to buy the remastered version of Spider-Man.
No, but you can download I have PSN. I get a catalog of like hundreds of free games, and a lot of games originally came out on PS4 and are still marketed as PS4 games, and you can play those on PS5.
But they have to be digital.
Yes.
So on Xbox, if you have a Series X, you can put in the old
disc. That's great. I love that.
And it works like nothing, which I think is a huge plus. I don't know how long they're going to keep that up, but the fact that they're still keeping it up.
Is the PS5 not backwards compatible?
I don't think you can put in PS4 discs.
Have
you tried it?
I haven't tried it. Yeah, I haven't tried it because if it's a PS4,
try it, see if it breaks your console.
It's not gonna break it. It's gonna not read my disc or whatever. But I was always a really big proponent of backwards compatibility.
Yeah, me too. I think it's important.
And that's something that I think early on that PlayStation did a lot better than Xbox.
Xbox has always had it.
Did they both always have it?
360 you could put it on Xbox.
I think PS3, I don't think you could play PS2 games on PS3.
Well, Xbox did better.
But you know what was weird was that you could play PS1 games on PS3. Isn't that weird?
Then that's contradictory.
I don't know.
That's a PlayStation problem.
But that's sidetracking.
In terms of
my point is that nowadays everything is so digitalized that it doesn't bother me anymore. I don't really care.
I mean, I think to top off like the design thing, I think that I do think 360 looked better than PS3. I think PS4 is better than the Xbox One. When it comes to Series X and PlayStation 5, I think they both.
I think PS5 looks sexy as fuck.
I think the PS5 looks sexy too, but it's fucking big.
It's big, but it's like it's like a statement.
It's kind of gross. I think that the digital version of the PS5 looks better.
It does look better, but
because it doesn't have that nasty fucking thing.
But I do, based on what we were saying, I obviously have the physical copy PS5 version because I wanted that flexibility.
No, I know, but I'm talking about the purely design.
No, design obviously,
yeah. It looks fucking gross.
The digital only PS5 looks nicer.
The digital version of the PS5 should be what it looks like.
Yeah.
That would be peak design.
I think that's probably the one that most people own, though.
That's the one I'm going to buy eventually.
Just the digital one.
Yeah, it looks better. Yeah. It'll fit better, too.
It does look nice.
But, like the Xbox Series X, I think it looks better than the Xbox One, sure. But it just looks like a PC.
But for me, ultimately, like, that's not a selling point why I would go with one over the other.
Of course not, but, it's still a thing.
It's still a factor,
It's still a thing. But I would say, like, it plays into the way Microsoft has gone with Xbox and just kind of like it's all. I mean, Xbox One has become kind of like a that's what it is, like one and you can have it all really. You can play PC. You can play it on PC. You can play Xbox One.
That's probably why they call it that.
I don't know if that's what they meant to be in the beginning, but I mean. You can play.
So you think they're gonna call it Xbox 2 next time?
Well, there's already rumors of like the next thing, and that's not what I've heard.
It's so hard to keep track of all these names. Fucking 360 One.
It is a little ridiculous. I remember when people thought that it was gonna be the Xbox 720, and like the leaked images were like the 360, but the lights were blue. Like instead of green, like Xbox's new color was going to be blue or whatever. I think PlayStation definitely has a better hand at that because it's simple. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes,
that's how it should be.
The marketing is so.
I don't know
clean.
what is wrong with Xbox because like you could very easily buy somebody an Xbox One game thinking that it's a fucking Series X game.
Yeah, if you're like a little kid, you're gonna buy a fucking.
If you've ever seen, have you gone to like Walmart and seen like how they have it, like. An Xbox Series X game, it's a Series X game because in the top right corner, in fucking what might as well be fine print, it says Series X.
Really?
But it looks like a fucking Xbox One game. It has the green thing, like it looks like an Xbox One.
To me, yeah, I think the branding is very confusing. I think it's very confusing that they have two current generation consoles out that you can buy. I think that's kind of confusing. I think. Parents don't understand the difference if they're like buying it for their kids.
Well, I mean, it is kind of cool that you can play like, for example, like Halo Infinite. You can play it on an Xbox One, which is the console from 2015, which is insane, and it runs well enough to be able to play with people that have a Series X. I do think that is a slight step up from PlayStation, where like, there's no PS4 and PS5 have no fucking. It's like you have one or the other. You can't fucking play either or. Like it's.
I mean, kind of. There's a lot of games, especially while the console is still new in its development, that the games are pretty much the same if you buy it for PS4 or for PS5. It kind of doesn't matter.
Well, the PS4 is kind of irrelevant nowadays.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's not because, and I think this is slowly starting to transition.
Well, it is. I can't get Spider-Man 2 on the PS4.
Well, they do that on purpose because they want you to buy PS5.
Yeah, Xbox doesn't do that yet.
But that's because it's an exclusive game. For games that aren't exclusive, if you play a game on PS5 versus PS4, you're not going to notice too many differences.
I don't think you'll be able to get Modern Warfare 3 on...
I think so. I think you can get it for PS4.
Really?
I think so. I mean...
Then it's going to be like a Black Ops 3 situation where the game looks like shit.
Yeah, probably. But there's a transition where for the first few years of the console's life cycle, you can purchase it on both, and then eventually they transition it to exclusively on the newer generation. So we could be getting to a point now where it's only the new games that are released are only for the new generation consoles, which is where it'll get to eventually. If that's not the case now,
I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was trying to think of what are the big exclusive only games on each console for PS4.
Last of Us. Last of Us Part 2.
Last of Us Part 2, yes.
That was a huge one. God of War, the reboot.
Yes.
The first God of War.
Yes,
Uncharted 4. No, PS4 kicked Xbox's ass. And they also regained Call of Duty. They got Call of Duty like early, even though Call of Duty was complete garbage during the PS4 cycle.
I guess my question was more directed, and in general, I think Last of Us was the last, or I guess Spider-Man was the last.
Spider-Man, PS4.
You know what else? I'm trying to think of new IP. Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, Ghost of Tsushima.
I wouldn't count Horizon.
Horizon's good,
but is it Spider-Man good?
It's not Spider-Man good.
There you go.
It doesn't mean it's not good.
But it's like good. Horizon's like on Gears of War level.
No.
Yes,
it's better. It's a really cool story.
Yeah, so it's Gears of War.
Yeah, but no one cares.
Exactly. Nobody cares about Horizon Zero Dawn anymore either.
I mean, they had a sequel.
So did Gears of War.
I know, but I mean, those are the ones in terms of new.
It's like a B tier. It's like it's a B tier. It's like a B.
Yeah.
We're talking about A's though.
I'm talking about generally. So those are all. There were a lot of strong. I still would consider Horizon to be a strong PlayStation exclusive title.
I'll give you that. Sure, the first one.
Yeah, I haven't played the second one yet. But yeah, so PS4 I think continues the trend of just really strong exclusive game titles.
When it comes to like single player games, I think, yeah. I mean, I would say Sony's still. I also do think that there's people who really like Xbox versus people who like PlayStation. A lot of it comes down to: are you mostly playing games online, or are you mostly playing narrative-based, single player games? And each console is more geared towards one or the other. I mean, I think it's gone into a more healthy route than it used to be. Because on Xbox now you can connect with PC players.
Well, everything is compatible with each console.
Like Discord is not compatible with Xbox. You can start a Discord chat on Xbox.
That's great because you can't do that on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to figure out a way to get my friend to communicate with me.
No, you can on Xbox. I can hop on Discord chat with someone.
Oh, but he has an Xbox, so he should be able to do that. And then we can.
You just need the app.
We can talk through Discord. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, again, goes back to accessibility. I think Xbox is still doing a better job at accessibility, but in terms of like the rivalry itself, I think it's gotten into a more healthy medium than it was.
I think people just don't care as much.
I do think they don't care as much. I do think it can get better though. Like I don't think that
I was actually kind of disappointed because I was for this new life cycle of PS5 and Xbox. I was expecting things to like get heated again and like people to
no one
really cared.
Look, competition is good. It's definitely good for like companies and shit. But I do think it can get a little bit unhealthy. Like, I kind of wish that, like, exclusives specifically, I wish they were only for, like, original, like, I wish exclusives were only retained to original IP that the fucking developers came up with. Like, The Last of Us should only be on PlayStation. Halo should only be on Xbox or PC or whatever they're doing now. But, like, and God of War should also retain itself to like they should have like their own things, but when it comes to like major IP, like Starfield, for example, I didn't think it made sense to be specific to Xbox.
I don't think it's specific to Xbox.
It is.
I don't think so. We talked about this before.
You can't play it on PlayStation.
I think you can.
No, you can't.
I think you can.
You can?
I think you can. I mean, I'll look it up right now. I swear to God, I looked this up before.
Is it not? Is Starfield not an Xbox exclusive?
No, I don't think so.
Look it up right now.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Starfield.
Long silence.
I guess you're right.
So Starfield is an
So
Xbox.
I think what happened was right because Microsoft
because they bought them.
Bethesda.
Sure.
So now moving forward, Bethesda games will be exclusive.
See, I think that's a little toxic.
No, I don't think it's toxic. I think that they need that. I think Xbox needs that.
But the problem is that
things like this make me more interested in buying.
But the problem is that they're going to make things that were already available to the public beforehand. Are gonna
but you know,
like
there's no reason.
The next Fallout game and the next Elder Scrolls game.
It's going to be exclusive to Xbox.
It shouldn't be.
It should because this is a good thing because people will want. This is the reason to buy the Xbox now.
But
you're giving people
the reason why it shouldn't be is because that's cheating.
But there's no reason that God of War should be exclusive.
It is because God of War was never on Xbox to begin with. God of War was on PlayStation.
I know,
first.
but I'm saying there's no reason.
The thing is,
there's no reason that it should have been exclusive to PlayStation to begin with. There's nothing that's preventing it from being an Xbox.
Sure, but that's how it was, though. The thing is, like Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Bethesda games in general were available on PlayStation 2 beforehand, and now all of a sudden it's being gatekept to Xbox. And I think that it doesn't feel as natural as a God of War or a Halo. Like, okay, I
mean, I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, and The Last of Us, like that started on Sony, and it should stay on Sony. Like, they created that, they deserve to keep that. They deserve to hold that.
But you see what Xbox is doing there.
I think they're cheating.
They're cheating a little bit. Yeah, they are cheating.
I don't think that counts. I think buying companies that it's like if fucking Sony bought. For some reason, this would never happen, but for some reason Sony bought Halo and all of a sudden that is cheating. You can't do that. Like, to me, that, like if all of a sudden Call of Duty only came out on fucking Xbox, that would
drive people insane.
That would be horrible.
But also, that would never happen because it would drive sales.
I mean, I think the same thing of, just like of major... I think
this can't be right because
existing IP.
I think Bethesda is losing out on a lot of
existing IP shouldn't be made exclusive. I think that you lose on a lot of fans, and I think it creates a toxic.
I think Bethesda is losing out on a lot of money by having it only be on Xbox. Like, I think that's
because I don't think they are because Xbox bought a lot, paid a lot of money. They fucking gave them enough. Todd Howard never has to work again if he didn't want to.
Who?
Todd Howard. He never has to work again.
But they're losing out on so much revenue.
Sure, but do they care?
Because
Xbox already fucking paid them so much money.
They should care.
Like, that's the thing. I don't think that's the healthy way of doing it. I think that both companies should be driven to create their own original IP to differentiate themselves from the other console. Like they did with God of War, The Last of Us, like they did with Halo and Gears of War. Those are like two things that it's like. Those are two.
But the difference is that Xbox only had Halo and Gears of War, and they were desperate for other IP.
That's why,
and so I find that
they should have invested more time in creating.
While it's somewhat cheating, like I understand why they did it, and
I understand why
I think it'll be healthy for the ecosystem.
I don't know.
It's annoying, but
there's better ways to do it.
You know, it's like they tried buying Activision.
They did buy Activision. That went through.
They went through. Well,
and as a matter of fact, that deal that they had,
it'll never be exclusive to Xbox.
It won't. But the deal that they had fucking 10 years ago, where all the DLC would come early, it's coming back.
Woohoo! Lucky you.
I mean, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit because I have a PS4 now, and I'm gonna get a PS4. I have both. Like nowadays, I have both. Whatever, but I do think that I don't think the way that Xbox is doing it is like. Sure, from a fucking business standpoint, it's smart, but like, they're cheating.
They're
not making their own shit.
They need it.
They're just buying shit that was on both sides and just making it.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked.
It's a little fucked.
But they need it. They're desperate for it because they can't come up with a single IP in the past fucking 20 years besides Halo and Gears of War. What's another one that was unsuccessful? I can't even tell you the name of it.
They've tried a few.
Like what else have they even tried?
They've tried a few, but it hasn't
hasn't gone very well.
It hasn't gone very well. I mean, they've been Halo and Gears of War and Halo.
Yeah, what else have they done? What other IP have they tried to put out?
I can't think of it.
That's crazy.
No, I'm being honest.
That's
I can't
crazy.
think of any. Like,
That's
really
fucking crazy.
And
so to me, that's like
the whole embarrassing.
It's
like embarrassing too. You know
okay,
why?
okay.
You know what's embarrassing? And
It is embarrassing.
This is an Xbox rant too because Halo is a brand that you could so easily make it so that it destroys everything that Sony has. It is so easy.
It's not.
It is very easy to make it fucking the next Star Wars. It has the ingredients to be the next Star Wars.
You mean in terms of the Halo franchise? Or?
Yeah. In terms of being like, still being a console seller and still fucking being outdoing the Last of Us and all the shit that Sony's doing. But for some reason, Microsoft thinks that it's easier to go and buy out all these other companies and forget about Halo and bring in Bethesda, bring in all the other fucking Activision and Call of Duty and all this nonsense, Diablo, all these other companies as like a padding on the ground because of all the things. Because I don't know, like in Las Vegas they had like their fucking the sphere.
Yeah.
You would be surprised. You wouldn't be shocked that. You would think that at least Master Chief's helmet would be featured on that fucking sphere. But you know what was on that sphere? Bethesda, Starfield, Diablo, Forza for some fucking reason, and then the Xbox logo.
I don't know about Forza, but obviously they included those other two because those are recent launches. And
right.
They're promoting those launches.
Sure.
When the next Halo game comes out, they'll have fucking...
I don't think so.
Chief.
I don't know. Halo is what made Xbox what it is. So it felt a little bit...
No, I think you're being too like...
No, I'm
biased.
not. I'm not because
it's not logical
when you think of Xbox...
But they're not promoting Xbox. They're promoting the launch of Starfield and Diablo.
But when you think of Xbox, what's one of the first thing that comes to mind?
Diablo.
No. Fuck up. It's Halo. It is.
No, I know.
Fucking
but they're
Starfield.
not brand. That's not. It's not. They're not branding it because there hasn't been a new launch in a long time. So that's not logically. Why would they even like?
Because it's still because Xbox wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for Halo. Xbox wouldn't be a fucking company.
Of course,
it wouldn't be anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like
I think also probably
if I was in charge,
part of the marketing strategy for them is probably like we want to move away from that image of like just being Halo. We want to broaden it.
I understand that, but at the same time, you're isolating people like me. You're isolating people that stuck out with you through all these years for the fucking. I mean, this goes up to like how I feel about the Xbox brand nowadays.
You're a boomer, man. They're thinking about the new generation.
No, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think they're doing the smart move, right? But I do think that they're going from a company that used to be known for something to a company that's known for stuff, which is, Starfield and fucking all these other companies that
they're just trying to replicate the Sony model. Where Sony's not known for one thing.
Of course they are. If you think of a PlayStation, you think of The Last of Us. You think of Spider-Man.
I don't.
What? Well, I do. And I think a lot of people that were not avid PlayStation fans, like to begin with, when they think of the PlayStation console, I I do believe that they think of...
But I don't agree with that. I think that there's I think there's thousands and thousands of people who are like, who think of, when they think of PlayStation, they think God of War. They think Uncharted. Or they think Final Fantasy.
Yeah, but what's the biggest thing that's come out of it, though? It's probably The Last of Us.
In terms of, like...
commercial success.
And as an exclusive game, probably
is
The Last of Us probably the most...
It would be Spider-Man.
I think...
But Spider-Man's cheating, too. Because
Spider-Man's cheating because it's existing IP.
Yeah.
I think probably in... But we're talking in the past 10 or 15 years only.
Yeah.
Probably Last of Us is the most important PlayStation title. But then
The Last of Us is like the best game ever released.
I mean, I agree with you. It's my favorite game, so I'm there. I'm up there with you.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to be there for its release.
Yeah.
I played it when it came out in 2013. That's because I was rewarded for being a Sony fan.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'll give it to you.
But historically, right, the first 15 years of PlayStation, Final Fantasy VII was probably the one that was the biggest and most important PlayStation game. And to this day, if you're looking but historically,
like the mainstream
games, that is very much mainstream.
More than Last of Us.
Historically, Final Fantasy VII and Last of Us will be right up there together. When you're looking at all games that have ever been created.
If you type in,
because you're thinking in terms of modern.
Yeah, because that's what matters. That's what the modern audience that is what matters.
Well, sure. I don't know where we're going with this, but okay. Before we wrap it up here,
if you type in PlayStation and then if you type in Xbox. When you type in Xbox, one of the first things that will come up is Halo.
Mm-hmm.
When you type in PlayStation, I guarantee one of the first things that will come up is The Last of Us.
Kind of, but it's already that game's over 10 years old at this point. Last of Us 2 is probably 3 or 4 years old.
And they got the third game that's coming out. So
but they're doing a bunch of shit out. They have the Uncharted movie.
Those are garbage.
They just released Twisted Metal.
It's also garbage.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
You watched the show?
I watched the first episode.
Really?
Yeah. Peacock is free.
Is it free? It's
Yeah.
just... What do you mean Peacock is free?
It's on Peacock.
I know. Peacock is free?
Yeah.
How's it free?
It's a free streaming service.
No way.
Yeah. It has ads.
Oh, shit.
It's cable.
I've been trying to watch SNL. And it's only on Peacock. It's just Hulu.
Maybe I got a free trial.
No, dude, it's definitely not free. It's definitely.
I remember I watched the first episode. I didn't like it.
Maybe they probably had the first episode free because they wanted people to watch it and shit.
Well, it didn't work.
It didn't work. But anyway, so before we wrap it up, I wanted to discuss a little bit about what we've been up to in terms of modern gaming. In modern past few years, what have we been playing? What do we see the future to be? For me personally, something weird that I had mentioned to you already, but I've been moving away from just playing COD and
that happened to me too.
In general, I've not really been playing a lot of online games.
Well, COD is garbage nowadays.
And yeah, that's a whole other discussion. But I've been going back and dabbling in older games that I never had a chance to play a little bit. And so I played Assassin's Creed 2, which is my first Assassin's Creed game I ever played.
You didn't play the first one?
No, I skipped the first one.
That's good.
Because I got...
That was really different.
I know that people generally don't like the first one that much, and
I don't.
That's the consensus. That's the general consensus really is that people are just skip the first one.
You would hate it.
Yeah. So I played Assassin's Creed 2. I was curious to hear more about your relationship and history of playing Assassin's Creed games because it's such a long and huge franchise.
And that could be its own thing, but
so you've played a lot of them.
No, but I have tried to get into them. And I could talk a lot about how I've tried my journey to try to get into them. I'll give a brief...
Yeah, just a really brief rundown.
A brief rundown is my first Assassin's Creed game was Assassin's Creed Unity. which to people that are like
did you play it when it came out?
I played it when it came out, and for people that are like in the gaming sphere, Unity is known as the most broken Assassin's Creed game to ever come out.
Is that still with Ezio?
It came out no, dude, that Ezio was gone.
Okay.
No, Unity was in France. It was like a new story, but it was connected. They're all connected. But it was one of the first games, back when like games were releasing broken and shit.
Uh-huh.
It was one of the first ones. It was part of that wave of games that were releasing broken, buggy, unfinished.
And it was Ubisoft was like
Ubisoft was in really like it was back when like the first Division came out, and it was like what the fuck.
They were like known for having
Watch Dogs. The first Watch Dogs. Remember that shit? Ubisoft was fucking up a lot, as they are still today.
Probably the first Ubisoft game that I ever played too.
What?
Assassin's Creed 2.
Oh.
I don't think I ever played any of the other ones.
Yeah, no, Ubisoft games are often known to come out like fucking nasty. But Unity was my first game that I played, and the reason why I played it was because it was co-op. And to this day, it's still the only Assassin's Creed game that is co-op. But I remember I played it and I really liked it. I was like, holy shit, is this what Assassin's Creed is? I was like, I freaking loved it. So then I went back and I played Assassin's Creed 1. I fucking hated
That's a mistake.
dude. Assassin's Creed 1 was... It's dated.
I was looking up, should I play Assassin's Creed? I kept going back and forth. Should I play the first one? Blah, blah.
It's dated.
And what people were saying was like, if you play Assassin's Creed 2 and then you go back to 1, or if you play any Assassin's Creed and you go back to 1, you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
But if you play it 1 to begin with, you have nothing else to like base it off of. So you will enjoy it the most if that's the first one you play. But ultimately, I decided not to.
No, it's good that you didn't. And then I played 2, and I liked 2. And then I played 3 about like maybe like 25 to 30% of the way through. It was fine. I don't remember what was going on in my life during that time.
Okay.
But I did like the game. And then I remember after 3, I tried After 3, I didn't fully complete them, but I've played them all. I played Brotherhood, Revelations, and Black Flag, which was fun. I need to go back and
people seem to really like Black Flag.
I need to go back and complete that one. That one was really fucking fun.
Yeah, I want to play that one for sure.
And then I caught back up to Unity. I personally enjoy Unity. I don't know if it was just because it was my first. Maybe it probably was because it was my first one. It was super buggy, but it was kind of funny. Also, because I played it in co-op. Like it was funny playing the game with your friend and just laughing at all the like stupid glitches.
Yeah.
Or like fucking with him and ruining his stealth. Unity is the only one. I don't think they've ever gone back to co-op after that. I think it's like one of those cases where the developers took the wrong notes. They saw that people hated that game, so they completely blacklisted everything that game had, and they didn't look at the good things of the game, because the game did good things. Developers do it all the time, right? A game is hated by the public, and they fucking blacklist it.
Yeah.
They don't even try to look at the things that were liked. But after, fucking Unity, I think they made Syndicate, which was like a carbon copy of Unity, but it worked. And then after that, they transitioned into like the open world Assassin's Creed. I don't know if you've played those. Well,
what does that mean? Because it's pretty open world already.
I guess the proper term is the RPG. They transitioned into RPG role playing games with Odyssey, the Egypt one, and then the Viking one, where it's like you don't have specific missions that you go like. It's not just like imagine if this table was Assassin's Creed 2's world, right?
Okay.
And Odyssey's the Viking one and the Egypt one. The world is the entire apartment.
But are you just talking about like the map being bigger?
The map is bigger. There's no
mission. There's no like main mission that you have to do.
There is, but you're like blocked off from it. You can't do it until you like rank up, and you there's loot that you collect. Like there's armor, like legendary gear, exotic.
So it's more
gear.
like a Skyrim type of game.
Sure, you can say that.
Okay.
That's how the new games are, at least. I've dabbled into all of them a little bit. None of them have the best one. They become more of like a location based, like if you want to play in an Assassin's Creed game in Egypt.
Yeah, which is cool.
And fucking fight, the Egyptian gods or whatever.
Which is, why did they...
No, that one's cool. The Egypt one is the best one, I would say.
Really?
And they do all connect to the story in a really...
This was not a short conversation.
Oh yeah, I went off on a tangent. This is not an Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
I'm not even the right person to talk to about this because I'm not a fucking...
Yeah, I'm not too well versed.
I'm not an Assassin's Creed person at all. I'm not. I played the game.
Basically, what I want to say...
What's your point?
My point is that... I recently just things that I've been playing. So
okay, Assassin's Creed is one of the things you've been playing.
Yeah, so. Assassin's Creed 2, I just beat that. The
second one you just beat?
Assassin's Creed 2. Okay. That's the one and only one that I've played. I've been playing Spider-Man 2 right now.
Yeah. Lucky bitch.
And I guess the thesis of my whole conversation boils down to one of us is playing one of us is playing Spider-Man 2 and one of us can't.
There's a fucking reason for that. One of us can't afford a PS5.
Oh, okay, please. But you got an Xbox One. You could have gotten a PS5.
I got a Series S because it was cheap. And
okay,
I got it 2 years ago.
You could have spent an additional $200 and gotten a PS5.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The reason why I stayed with Xbox was obviously Halo. And my friends. All my friends still play on Xbox. They all have, very ironically, they all have PS5s, and they're all playing Spider-Man 2 right now.
The thing is, now it doesn't matter because it's all cross.
It is very bad. All of the multiplayer games are cross-play. So the way it's transitioned to is all my friends have a PlayStation 5 for the single-player games. So they have a PlayStation and they play God of War, The Last of Us, and the Spider-Man game. I mean, I got the Spider-Man edition PS4 Pro specifically so that I can play the Spider-Man game. Now that has to do because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan.
I am also a huge Spider-Man fan, and the last game that came out, fucking awesome game.
Yeah,
Spider-Man 2 is way better in every way.
I'm sure it is. And I was really close to buying the fucking console for that. I just couldn't afford it. But the way that it's transitioned for me and my friends nowadays is that Xbox is our main hub. That's where we all play Call of Duty. That's where we all play Halo, Gears of War, Party Animals, whatever fucking game.
But you could have gotten a PS5 instead of the Xbox and done all of that stuff anyway.
Yeah, but it doesn't have Halo and Gears of War.
But there's nothing yet that came out.
Yes, it is. Halo Infinite and Gears of War 5.
But Halo Infinite, I guess I played that on PC, so it doesn't...
You play it on PC, yeah.
For me, I have that Halo bug being scratched.
Well, you also got to keep in mind that I'm a Halo player at heart.
Yeah.
That's the game that I'm the best at, and I enjoy just playing that game in general.
Well, yeah.
I like getting to the max rank and just being good at the game. On a day that I'll come home from work or whatever, I'll play 2 or 3 games of Halo Infinite. Whatever Halo game it is, I like that gameplay style more than when it comes to multiplayer games. That's the game that I enjoy the most. Mm-hmm. And I can't get that on PlayStation, and now it is on PC. You're right.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter now because, for me, my Halo itch was finally scratched on PC. Because I have a PC, and so you don't need to have Xbox console to play the Halo games at all. So it almost doesn't even make sense to be buying the
Xbox console. The console's still cheaper.
Sure, but it's
because it's $500, and you kind of have a pretty decent. I mean, the Xbox Series X is still impressive in terms of what it can do graphically. Also, like streaming wise, when it comes to like streaming on Netflix and whatever and all that stuff. And you don't have to worry about. I see the Xbox as kind of like a purchase and forget kind of thing, because with a PC you have to keep upgrading it and you have to keep.
Not really. I don't plan to upgrade my PC in a long time, but I do think that the barrier to entry there in terms of like graphical capabilities is a lot higher than just having the console.
Yeah, and true. Like for like couch gaming, like you know, I play on like a flat screen TV. Like I don't care.
I also prefer. I've always been a console person.
Yeah.
And that again can be a separate conversation about fucking
console
some people love fucking PC. And
I mean, I get it. I've played on PC. I've done the fucking mouse and keyboard thing. I went through my PC phase.
And you don't even need to do mouse and keyboard. You can use your fucking Xbox controller on PC.
Why would
you? For me, I just feel more comfortable with the controller.
Yeah.
So even when I'm playing on PC, I tend to still use my controller.
Yeah.
But whatever. The PC is definitely, way more customizable. The graphical capabilities
are way better.
My PC, and the only reason it's as good as it is because I spent like all of my COVID unemployment money on it at the time.
So you did spend time upgrading.
I spent a lot of money on it. I haven't upgraded it, but I built it myself. So I was able to kind of like get the parts.
So it was still a lot of money.
My PC,
like the COVID money. How much was that? Like $2,500.
I spent probably like $1,200 on my PC.
An Xbox is $500.
Right.
So like it's still an Xbox is still more. Like I think it's I don't like to think about that shit. Like not yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm still with Xbox.
Well, for me,
that's my main hub.
I think it's just simpler, and I just prefer that.
But all my history is on there, right?
Yeah.
Xbox keeps track of all your... Because like in PlayStation you have the trophies, right?
Yeah.
On Xbox we have gamer score. And your gamer score is like everything you've gotten. All the achievements, the trophies are achievements on Xbox. And it's all the achievements you've gotten from the very first Xbox. And it keeps track of all that shit. And it's just like... I don't know. And also, Xbox has the fucking... I know PlayStation has it now, but before they didn't fucking have it. And, they got the Game Pass, and now they have the Game Pass Ultimate where you get Game Pass and you get access... If you pay an extra $5, you get access to all the EA games and all the Ubisoft games. So it's like you kind of can play everything for a monthly subscription of $15 a month. You can play everything, like all the new games, like the new like Payday, Starfield, the Halo games, like and Call of Duty soon to be probably eventually. You won't have to fucking pay the full $70 price tag that they're gonna start charging.
Mm-hmm.
You can just download the shit.
Which Spider-Man, by the way, it was like with tax, it was $78.
That's something that I would fucking pay $200 for.
You'll have to pay.
I will.
$578.
I will. But that's the thing. I mean, when I get a PS5, I'm not just getting it for Spider-Man. Like, I'd be getting it for The Last of Us, for Spider-Man, for PS5.
Well, there's so many.
There is
sequels.
Like, I do think
games that are coming out.
Like the way that I am right now, like the only reason I don't have a PS5 is because out of all my friends, I don't want to say I'm the poorest one. I'm not. But it's not. I'm able to acknowledge that getting that console is not as much of a priority as other things that I have going on in my life. And that's the only reason why I don't fucking have it. But it's coming. And in terms of like my gaming sphere, the PlayStation 5 is gonna be the console that I use to play single player games. Like that's gonna be like the single player game
for sure
domain, because that's what Sony excels at. Uncharted, Spider-Man, Last of Us, God of War, and I'm sure they'll come up with a bunch more as they come along. I know that they have a deal with Bungie, who are the guys that used to make Halo and now make Destiny, and I'm sure they'll...
That Sony has a deal with them?
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
No.
I don't think that's right.
No, they did.
I think they had a deal with Microsoft.
No, because Bungie got acquired by Activision.
So then
they recently, I guess they recently lost them.
They're owned by Microsoft.
That's a different conversation. But
okay,
my point is that like Sony has become like the single player console, the console for single player for great and amazing single player games.
Yes.
For all my friends, and that's what it's gonna be for me. And Xbox is gonna be like our main social hub.
Yeah.
Right, because I also have one friend that moved away from Xbox and went to PC. But we can still play with them because of what they've done with the fucking,
It's
PC
really seamless because it is.
I mean, I could play with you.
It's still Microsoft to Microsoft, but even Sony to Xbox, it's still easy. But okay, obviously we can talk about this for the rest of our lives. What are your final thoughts on this conversation, and what do you want to say else before we go?
My final thoughts on this conversation. I'm looking at my notes. One thing that we did not touch on that I did have here on my notes, and it's a really minor thing.
Okay, go for it.
It's the UI,
the
user interface for both the PlayStation and the Xbox. I do think that the Xbox has had superior UI than the PlayStation has. I think that PlayStation has matched it, and now they're just kind of the same shit.
I only know one thing, so I can't even.
Well, during the PS3 era and the Xbox 360, I think Xbox, if anything, Xbox has downgraded since the 360. I don't like this new fucking Windows 8 shit they're trying to do. I think it's whatever.
My experience with Xbox is the UI is overly complicated.
I mean, they integrated it. They changed it to match the Windows 8 when they made Windows 8 and Windows X and all that shit. It's very boxy. But back in the 360 versus PS3, I think Xbox had the superior one. Just the way that everything was organized. You could see your game. You could see your Netflix. It made sense. You could see your friends. Like you had like the Xbox avatars of your friends. Like when you saw your Xbox friends, you could see their avatar, and you didn't have to click 10 different things to see their avatar like you do now. It was more social. I feel like Xbox used to have the more social. In terms of it being a social playground, Xbox used to have that over Sony 10 times over. Nowadays, I think it's more matched. But I just wanted to mention that as one thing that I think they had over Sony. Because I do think that's one thing that online games have lost a lot is it being like a social... It's feeling social, not feeling as isolated as it does now. And I think Xbox had that back in the day.
I think in summary, PlayStation is special for its large library of exclusive games.
Single player exclusive
games. And that's what makes it. That's what really makes it shine. That's its like number one feature.
I mean, that's why people buy the console. That's why I'm gonna buy the console. It's because they have a bunch of single player offerings that I can't get anywhere else, and that's a good thing. They have that as a company. Like, that's smart.
And for Xbox, it's more of a social console where are playing together online, and that's predominantly what it's being used for. It's the accessibility. More people are able to buy it and to experience a large library of games. And that's the big selling point for that console.
And then Nintendo is just doing their own thing, and nobody will ever be able to compete with Nintendo. Because
Nintendo is
they have their own fucking thing. Like while PlayStation and Xbox have the little cat fight. Nintendo, they're on the side. They don't have to fight.
They're just enjoying the show.
Yeah, because people are gonna come to them.
Well, they're the OGs,
They are the OGs, really. Nobody remembers Atari.
Well, it's interesting that that our conversation was early on was geared towards Nintendo.
Well,
And
I'm
then
still
we
in it.
completely
I'm still in
switched
Nintendo.
and just stopped discussing it.
We did stop discussing it because that's kind of how it did happen in terms of the industry. Like Nintendo's just on its side. Like
But Nintendo still comes out with like fucking amazing,
of course. Yeah, I mean, you have a Switch.
highly selling games. I have a
Yeah,
Switch.
you still play it. Like you have nothing bad to say about it.
I have nothing bad to say about
Nintendo.
it.
Like
It's Nintendo.
They're their own thing.
It's a staple that will always. I mean, their niche is that they're the family console. They're the ones where you get a group of people in person to sit around the TV and you're gonna play the console together.
Yeah.
That's their whole niche, and that's been that way since they started.
And it's probably never gonna change.
Correct, because that's how they stand out from the other ones.
Yeah.
So that's their thing. Everyone's special, and
everyone's in agreement on that.
And everyone's happy, and the world is.
I mean, in general, I nowadays I don't care about the Xbox PlayStation rivalry. Like I think it's mute. It's moot. Honestly, like it's. I don't really think it even exists. It's barely a fucking thing.
Nowadays, nowadays it's just because everything's cross-platform now. It almost like doesn't matter. PCs. People generally have PCs now. It's more accessible as well to get a PC. So everything is just merging into one, and there's going to be one console called the United States console of America. And
I mean, if anything, it's just gonna be Sony. Like it's gonna be the PS5 because the Xbox is just gonna get closer to just a PC.
Kind of, yeah.
And like the console the console is gonna be the Sony console, and Xbox is just gonna be a part of Microsoft's.
It's almost an Xbox will be an extension of a PC.
Like if you want like a cheaper whatever version, like that's what Xbox is gonna be. And like, I do think that's a smart way for Microsoft to go. They recognize where things were going. If I was in charge of Xbox, I think I could have changed things.
Well, it's not too late. Maybe one day.
Maybe. But I do think that, sure, they made a smart business move, however lazy it may be.
Well, good. Well, let's get another drink. We'll cheers to being emperors of the world.
Emperors of the world and everything becoming one. I think that's it. I mean, we all have fucking, you have a PC, that's your Xbox. I'm gonna get a PlayStation. That's my Sony connection. There's no exclusivity anymore. It's just
we're all one happy family.
We're all one happy family, and that's that.
Yeah, that's a good way to end things.
Cheers to that.
All right,
we'll cut it right there.
Very good.